A couple of nights ago, while the police in Portland were dealing with a bunch of raucous rioters marching through residential neighborhoods and fighting with police, somebody fired 150 bullets at 8 apartments, 7 cars, and 1 woman got shot. We don't exactly know why. And maybe this isn't an instance of far left violence or anything like that, but it does show you what happens when our police resources are strained. Now, this video is not about what happened in Portland. You saw the title, it's something else. It's about this. Chicago Dunkin Donuts worker is fired and arrested after Illinois state trooper finds large, thick piece of mucus floating in his coffee. I know it's disgusting. I apologize for this, but this is what happens when police are constantly under threat, preoccupied, or they're completely demoralized. I mean, what happened in Portland. And this is just one story I wanted to go through. And in terms of a longer list of violent crime and harm perpetrated by far leftists and Black Lives Matter activists. They say that, there's a lot of these stories about police having their food tampered with. Some of them are fake. Some of them are real. We have another one. People absolutely are targeting police officers. And I think this will lead to very serious problems. But ultimately, what I want to get to is a list of graphs put together by, this is Zach Goldberg. And what he finds is things like this. How often do you secretly wish for bad things to happen to those who disagree with you politically? And white liberals are twice as high as conservatives and 4 times as high as moderates. That's right. It is the left that is wishing you harm secretly. And I have a bunch of other graphs from Zach I want to show you where it stands to reason you are more likely to face some kind of low-level violence from the left, but worst still, in the George Floyd riots, 30 people have died, 26 to gunshot wounds. So why is it that the media still persists in their narrative of Antifa not being a real thing? Why is it that Democrats are ignoring stories like this? Okay, fine. Some people have said to me, Tim, I don't care about harassment. I don't care if someone spat in someone's coffee. Well, I'm going to show you this story just because it's really messed up. But I ultimately want to talk about the harm caused by the left, how it's ignored by people. And then I want to do something very simple. I'm going to say this right now. 26 people have died to gunshot wounds in the George Floyd riots. According to the Washington Post, 13 unarmed black men were killed last year by police. We now have twice as many people shot and killed by the rioters than we do by police last year. What does that mean? Well, let's read this story because this is the news, and then I'll show you the data on how the left is actually more likely to be mentally ill and more likely to actually wish harm on people. Now, I don't want to pretend like every leftist is this way. It's just a higher density. And this is why we see stories like this. A Chicago Dunkin Donuts employee was arrested and faces charges for allegedly spitting into an Illinois state trooper's coffee. Illinois State Police said Vincent J. Sessler of Chicago was arrested and charged Friday with disorderly conduct, reckless conduct, and battery to a peace officer following an incident which occurred the previous night. Police said that the unarmed Illinois state trooper had gone to the Dunkin Donuts Thursday at about 10:20 p.m. to buy a large cup of black coffee. That was when he saw a large, thick piece of mucus floating in his coffee, police said. During the investigation, the mucus was confirmed to be saliva. Sessler, an employee at the Dunkin Donuts, was arrested Friday at 12:49 p.m. According to a social media post, a friend of the trooper said he had been in uniform at the time of the incident and was using his marked police vehicle. The post also stated that surveillance video from the Dunkin Donuts captured an employee spitting into the cup before pouring the trooper's coffee. Neither the trooper nor his agency or the employee was identified in the post, although the Dunkin Donuts was listed by an address. Illinois State Police Director Brendan F. Kelly said in a statement that the incident is outrageous and disgusting. The men and women of the Illinois State Police put their heart and soul into protecting the lives and rights of all people in the state every day, Kelly said. They deserve better than this insulting and dangerous treatment. Illinois State Police will not be going to that particular Dunkin Donuts for food and drink anymore out of safety concerns. A Dunkin Donuts spokesperson said in a statement obtained by NBC5 Chicago that Sessler was fired after the investigation into the incident. The type of behavior reported to us is inconsistent with the brand's values, the spokesperson said, adding that the franchise owner of the location where the incident occurred said he took immediate action to investigate the matter and terminated the individual responsible for this reprehensible behavior. The spokesperson also noted that Dunkin has a deep appreciation for police officers who work tirelessly to keep our communities safe, and the franchise owner has reached out directly to the officer to apologize for the experience. This is kind of a stupid story, I have to admit, but it's one of the latest in ongoing harassment against police officers, and more typically by the left against their perceived enemies. Let's skip the harassment narrative. I just wanted to show you that. Let's skip the harassment narrative. Let's talk about the actual death. In the United States, as of July 5th, at least 30 people have died during the protests, with 26 due to gunshot wounds. The media enjoys its narrative of peaceful protests. Last night in Portland, it was mostly peaceful. Relatively few people actually showed up. However, in Seattle, they marched to the Seattle police chief's house, and they've been doing this for quite some time, going to politicians or public officials' houses. In Louisville, they are extorting local businesses. And we can see here now, 26 people were shot and killed. 30 people ultimately died. That's why it's funny when I see these media pieces where you have these leftists saying, see riots work. There's a video going around from Seattle of one of these, prominent I believe it's Portland, prominent Antifa affiliated individuals who keeps getting bailed out after getting arrested, saying, see, they only listen to us when we burn things. They're listening to us now. Ultimately, the hysteria leads to people doing dumb things like spitting in someone's coffee or just generally getting violent. I showed you the Portland thing just because it's the point about demoralization and the police being strained. And I'm showing you this now to point out something that I think is missing from the media narrative. And this is what I often get from the left. I was talking to a progressive friend of mine the other day who said, Tim, people are dying. I don't care about someone having their coffee spat in. And I said, okay, how about the dude who got beaten outside of a liquor store by someone screaming Black Lives Matter? What about the businesses that are being extorted? What about the cop who got ambushed, got shot in the head, maybe paralyzed for life? What about these stories? What about all the people who are being filmed and harassed? What about the video of the woman? A guy runs up to her and says he's with Black Lives Matter and demands she get on her knees and apologize, and she does. People are scared. They're being threatened. They're being harassed. People are spitting in their food. They're getting kicked out of restaurants, and they're afraid they'll lose their jobs. And then I'm told, but harassment and assault, Tim, people are dying. And I say, what about the 26 people, twice as many, who were killed, who were shot in these riots? What about those people? Now that you realize because of these protests and riots, people are being harassed and murdered, will you now go outside and wave a sign saying, tell Black Lives Matter to stop killing people? The answer, of course, was no. And I wonder why. And then I saw this post from Zach Goldberg. How often do you secretly wish for bad things to happen to those who disagree with you politically? Now, here's the important part. White moderates, over 80% say never or rarely. White conservatives say never or rarely. We do not wish for bad things to happen to those who we disagree with. Among white liberals, only 65% said never or rarely. And in fact, 20% said all the time. And just about 15% said sometimes. Among white moderates, just a little bit under 15% said sometimes, but only around 5% said often. And among conservatives, around 8% said often, and about 7 or so percent said sometimes. That's right. White liberals, 20% of them. That's insane. That is a large group of people. This is the ANES 2020 pilot survey, April 10th to 18th. This is before George Floyd. This is before all the rioting. But when you have 20% of the left, which probably includes a decent amount of the 65 million people who voted for Hillary Clinton, we're talking about tens of millions of people. And then you take about 20%, so maybe 10 plus million people who all the time or often are wishing for bad things to happen to those they disagree with. Well, Zach has more. He says, given that times change, do you think it is appropriate or inappropriate to judge people's past actions and comments by today's moral standards? Once again, conservatives say it is inappropriate. About 50% say it's inappropriate. About 25% say it's appropriate. And just under 25% say neither appropriate or inappropriate. I guess it doesn't matter. It's inverted among liberals. Just under 50% think it is appropriate to judge people by past actions based on today's moral standards. Now, this one's not so clear cut. This graph, it's an opinion, I suppose. Well, I'll tell you what. Among moderates, they believe it's neither inappropriate or appropriate. That sounds about right. However, moderates are the least likely to think it's appropriate to do so. And they're actually a little bit higher than liberals to say it is inappropriate to do so. Sounds like many moderates are, undecided because it's a moralistic question. But I'll tell you where I stand. It's inappropriate. When times change and then people change, you give them a chance to change. You can't retroactively apply moral standards and rules because then you'd be telling people it's okay to do a thing and then a day later, arrest them, they did this thing. It doesn't work that way. The next day you say, hey, you can't do this anymore. They say, okay, I won't. But the left not only is wishing for bad things on other people, they want them held to previous standards. We're building to something. You see where I'm going? Now, we're not just talking about people the left disagrees with. We're talking about the people the left disagrees with based on things they did a long time ago, and now you get cancel culture. But of course, there's more. Also from Zach Goldberg. How well do the following statements fit with your own views? There should be zero tolerance for offensive remarks. If you make such a comment, you should be fired. White conservatives say not well at all. And white moderates, mostly not well at all. But among liberals, it's split between not well and very and extremely well. They want harm on you. They're often wishing for these things. They think you should be judged by things you did a long time ago based on standards today. And don't forget, they're constantly changing those standards. They are. What was bigoted a year ago is now completely out of the question today. And it only gets worse. How well do the following statements fit with your own views? It is often unfair to make victims testify in front of those who have hurt them. And of course, white liberals, 40%, say that fits their views. I'm sorry. We have a right to confront our accusers, right? There's a reason why it's in the Constitution. So let me now tell you how everything is being structured. They want to abolish the police. They are wishing harm. Not every single one of them, but a lot of them are more likely to wish harm, more likely to hold you to previous standards, less likely to give you the opportunity to confront your accusers, more likely to demand you be stripped of your resources and fired. Here's another one. Please indicate whether you have ever done or not done each of the following. Tried to shame someone on Facebook or Twitter for making offensive remarks. White conservatives around 15%, moderates around 10%, and white liberals just over 25%. Now, there's an important thing to say here. It's not absolute. These are the important things you need to realize when it comes to what's going on with violence, spitting or tampering with someone's food, licking ice cream. Remember that? When the woman licked the ice cream and put it back, they don't care about you. Well, she got in trouble for that. The point is, everybody can do these things, right? Criticize someone to their face for making racist or sexist comments. White liberals, around 55% have done so, 40% of moderates, and around just under 40% of conservatives. Yes, everybody will criticize you for being racist, and a lot of people will. But the left will try and shame you or go after you on social media. Let's get to the interesting portions. Here's another one. Percent, very or extremely serious. Some complain that too many people are easily offended these days and too quick to police what others say. They refer to this as political correctness. In your view, how serious of a problem is political correctness? Conservatives, 60% say it's very serious, and liberals actually take it more seriously than moderates do. That's what I find truly interesting. Some complain that too many people make offensive comments these days when they should know better. In your view, how serious of a problem is people saying offensive things when they should know better? Conservatives around 30% and liberals around 50%. All of this builds to a narrative. The left thinks you should already know without being educated. They tell you it's not my job to educate you. They'll say it to your face. They'll come for you online. They'll try to get you fired. And they're always wishing bad things, or often wishing bad things on you. They're holding everyone to an impossible standard. And if you don't just know what they know, they'll attack you. They'll physically attack you. They'll hurt you. Some people will die. And then when you come out and say 26 people are dead, you know what they'll say to you? So what? That's about what I get. I'm not going to protest for them. Nope, I won't do it. I haven't gotten any one of my lefty friends to acknowledge that twice as many people have died in the riots and agree to hold up a sign saying, end the riots. Anything, really? I said, how about end the riot, end the violence? Everybody calm down. No, I'm going to protest for Black Lives Matter. I'm going to hold up my sign. 26 people, twice as many dead. What about this guy getting his food tampered with? What about the gunshots in Portland because police resources are strained? What about the 30 dead? It's not even just 26, it's 26 shot. And they say, but Tim, people are dying. I ask them, how many? How many people have died? Do you know? Can you name them? Of course they can't. It's political tribalism. So not only do they not even have the moral high ground, they're going to hold you to things that to standards you don't even know about. And I think it's all easily explained, to be honest. Depression stress index scores among white respondents. Very liberal rates at 0.43 on a Z-score. So I'm not necessarily sure what their metrics are for what the Z-score means, but I can tell you somewhat closer to liberals has a 0.05, neither negative 0.18, somewhat closer to liberals. What does this mean? Somewhat closer to liberals and very conservative. I think they got that wrong. Whatever. Conservatives have a lower depression and stress index than very liberals. I think this means somewhat closer to conservatives, but it was labeled incorrectly. The point is, whatever it is, conservatives are less likely to be depressed. And now for the kicker. Has a doctor or other healthcare provider ever told you that you have a mental health condition? Percent yes. Among white liberals, 38%. Among liberals, 26%. Among moderates, 19.5%. Conservatives, 11.2%. And very conservative, 14.8%. Interesting. There's a lot we can kind of take away from this data here. This is from the Pew American Trends Panel, Wave 64 from March 19th to 24th. The fact that we can see very conservatives are more likely than conservatives to have been diagnosed, but liberals are substantially more likely. The first thing we can say is maybe conservatives don't go to doctors for mental health issues. That's possible. But I don't think so. I don't think that's necessarily the answer because very conservatives are higher than conservatives, suggesting that they are going to doctors and talking about their mental health. I think what we may be seeing is what's creating the divide in today's politics. And it's why you'll find someone who's a liberal like myself not aligning with the liberals of today. It could be that and I mean this with all due respect, I have not been diagnosed with a mental health condition. I am not depressed. I am not stressed. I believe in certain liberal policies, but there's many people on the left who are. And I think what's happening is that the media, when you get shock content, you have regular conservatives, less than half the amount of liberals, and a third, less than a third of almost a fourth of very liberals, about a fourth of the amount. Conservatives are not being diagnosed with mental health conditions. What I think is starting to happen is that as media shocks people, freaks them out, and they're being whipped up into a tizzy by these people in media, the liberals start coalescing around insane narratives and what I call a paranoid delusional state, where they believe insane conspiracy theories about like white supremacy around every corner, about everything being white supremacy, about history being fake, fringe conspiracy theories. The Trump deploying federal agents across the country is just not true. I mean, technically, but in the sense they were reporting it, of unidentified, unmarked, military-style federal troops patrolling the streets never happened. But they all believe it. Why? Well, many of them have mental health issues. The interesting thing about conservatives, mind you, is that among conservatives, non-white and white are diagnosed around the same rate. And among conservatives, non-white conservatives are slightly higher. The interesting thing about liberals is that while non-white liberals are diagnosed around 19%, white liberals overwhelmingly have mental health conditions. I can't tell you what's making it happen or why, but here's what I think. It's not about liberals having mental health issues. I don't. I'm a liberal. It's about people with mental health issues being pulled and manipulated for political gain by the left because they can't compete with people who are of sound mind. Moderates, slightly more likely, around almost twice as likely as conservatives to be diagnosed with mental health conditions. But now you can see what's happening with the very liberals. Now you can see what's happening with the media. And now I think you understand why we're seeing the right becoming the bigger tent. It's not about whether or not you're liberal or conservative. It's about whether or not you can understand the news, understand humor, irony, satire, etc. I can tweet a joke, and what happens? The left takes it completely seriously. We're seeing a rise in all of these, what they call like neurodivergent identities. Quite literally, it is becoming, the culture war is becoming those of sound, reasonable mind and those with mental health conditions. I'm not saying that to disparage anyone. I'm not saying that to disrespect anyone. I'm saying that's literally what's happening. So you get someone like me. There was a joke that was published on Twitter recently where it was some guy making a joke about a horrific tragedy in New Zealand. And I thought the joke was fairly offensive, a tired racist trope, and I just didn't find it funny. I thought the guy was using shock content to, get some laughs. And you know what I did? After I listened to it, I went, yeesh. And then I just went about my day and ignored it. I didn't threaten the man. I didn't demand he be banned. I didn't try to cancel him. I didn't get angry. I was just like, you know what? Different strokes for different folks, right? I don't find the joke funny at all, but apparently he's got a big audience, so whatever, man. I'm out. I don't like him. I won't listen to him. It's really that simple. You're allowed to not like things. That's what tolerance is. I tolerate it. I say, I know he's making a joke. I get it. I probably make jokes other people find offensive, so I'll leave him to his business and his fans can appreciate his work, and I'll go do my thing. What do we get from the left? Well, partly due to the rise of mental illness, perhaps there's anger, rage, an inability to understand the humor, an inability to process it properly, and thus leads to them doing insane things for insane reasons. Now I want to wrap this up back to, the story we saw of the guy spitting in the coffee. Why did this guy do it? I'd have to imagine he has some kind of mental health issue for one simple reason. If you were to think about what you were doing, why you were doing it, what your goal is, and why you would engage in this behavior, well, you'd stop and think, hey, this won't help. It'll actually make things worse. Why is it that rioters went out and attacked police for 2 months in Portland? They didn't realize it helped Trump. They're just unwell. They're unstable. They have mental health issues. And these Antifa types, these extremists, use these kind of unwell people. These are the people exploited by the far left. This guy at Dunkin Donuts who got arrested for spitting in a cop's coffee clearly didn't think about the results of his actions. For one, it's going to make the cops look to be victims, which can benefit them in the public's view. He's going to get arrested. He's going to lose his job. In no way did he benefit. There was no success. Nothing was done other than some weird emotional satisfaction for someone who is unhinged. That's what we're seeing, and that's why we're going to see extreme violence. Now, for these tragedies where, what they call far right have engaged in these activities, sure, but this is about mental health, isn't it? These extremists who go on these attacks are unwell. When the guy in Dayton carried out enacted a mass tragedy and he was Antifa, did the media say an Antifa guy did it? They didn't. They said, no political motive. You see it, the media is playing games. They do this to attract those who can't think for themselves properly and exploit them for political gain. That's what's been happening for a long time. It has nothing to do with your politics. It has everything to do with a political faction that wants power and will do anything to get it. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at timcast.net at 4 p.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all then.